Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys having a fantastic day, evening, morning, whenever you happen to watch this. And in this episode of the Music Den, I'm going to be doing an album ranking of Joni Mitchell, top five. But this is going to be part one of at least two parts because she has such a vast catalog of albums and in terms of musical styles between folk and jazz fusion that I'm going to be doing at least two episodes of this. So for this episode, I'm going to be focusing on the, unfortunately, on this, not unfortunately, but on the 70s albums. Uh, Joni Mitchell, as you know, uh, fantastic folk, rock, jazz fusion artist. And Bob just helped me shut the door. He is so helpful. And she, in the 70s, it was for her, I think or most, sorry, I've only had two coffees and I'm still screwing up. Her most prolific period in terms of writing and diverse period. She has been signed to three major record labels: Reprise, Asylum, and Geffen in her career. She officially retired from recording in the 2000s. There is a live album of hers that was released in May of this year, I believe, live in Newport. But she unfortunately has retired or had retired because she felt that the music business for her was lacking in a lot of ways, in a lot of arenas, and in terms of her being able to get her music out to people. So for this episode, again, I'm going to be doing my top five albums of Joni Mitchell, and I'm going to be concentrating on the 70s era. So coming in at number five for me is Mingus. Released in 1979 on Asylum. And a little bit of a backtrack. All these albums, with the exception of one, were released on Asylum Records. So Mingus, again, number five, released in 1979 on Asylum Records. This was a collaboration between Joni Mitchell and Charles Mingus, famous jazz musician. And it's got to be said, for me, I've considered it to be her most experimental album in terms of going into jazz, full throttle. The album is a combination between spoken word interludes and jazz numbers. Music written by Mingus and for the most part, and lyrics written by Joni Mitchell. I mean, the album starts off with a happy birthday rendition to Mingus. And this album has a bit of a background on it in terms of she started rehearsing material for this album with such players as Jan Hammer on Mini Moog and Stanley Clarke on bass, the amazing Stanley Clarke. These recordings are missing or unavailable or whatever you want to call it, but they've gone MIA. And she basically started again with another set of musicians, including Jaco Pastorius on bass, who does bloody fantastic work on this album, and Herbie Hancock on keyboards. I mean, you can't go wrong with those two, in your band. And also Don Elias on percussion, congas, who would go on to play drums for her when she did the Shadows and Light tour with Pat Metheny and Jaco Pastorius in 1980. Again, this album for me leans a lot towards the jazz, traditional jazz. arena with songs like, but not that the songs are bad. It's just it's not really my cup of tea. Although it is a good album. Songs of note on the album are "A Chair in the Sky," "The Wolf That Lives in Lindsay," and "Goodbye Pork Pie Hat," which she also performed on the Shadows and Light album. It is a good album. Um, she finished the album after Charles Mingus passed away, unfortunately. It was her last album for Asylum before she moved on to Geffen. So that's number 5. Coming in at number 4, for in my opinion, is 1975's "The Hissing of Summer Lawns." This album uh, was considered by Prince, yes, that Prince, to be a major inspiration for him. What he said about Joni Mitchell was that she used a lot of color in her songwriting, and there was a time where I believe it was there was a playback. I believe it was for Purple Rain. One of his albums, I believe it was Purple Rain, and he invited Joni Mitchell to be a part to listen in on the playback for the press that was done. And she was sitting beside him, and she heard a certain chord progression, either on the guitar or the bass. And she leaned into him. She asked me, that was an interesting chord progression you did. Where did you get that from? And he looked at her and said, "From you." So, and she just was surprised that, that he would use her as an inspiration, because she really said that she really didn't hear it in the music. Although she did go on to have Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman sing backup vocals on her album Truck Mark and a Rainstorm on the Tea Leaf Prophecy track. It is her this is where she started to go into her jazz experimentation. And songs of note for me in the album are "In France, They Kiss on Main Street," which leads off the album, and "Harry's House" / "Centerpiece," which is like a 6-minute plus track. To me, it's one of the more experimental tracks on the album. Great piece of music. Just, she's always used chord progressions in her playing, in her arranging, that were so far advanced from what was going on in the folk music scene that, I mean, her influence is felt all over the world. And I mean, musicians that record that helped her out on these recordings in terms of backup vocalists. I mean, you had Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young doing backup vocals on this album on various tracks. So I mean, she had, and James Taylor, who she also had a relationship with. As Guyby said, Joni Mitchell has had relationships with quite a few famous individuals: David Crosby, Graham Nash, Jackson Browne, Sam Shepard, the actor and playwright. So yeah, this album, unfortunately, was her, I believe, her last charting album of the 70s. Unfortunately, I believe we're in the top 10. So that's number 4. Coming in at number 3 is her 1976 release, Hijira. released in November of 76. This album, for me, in terms of song arrangement and chord progressions on bass and guitar, has got to be one of the most fantastic albums I've ever heard in my life. 9 tracks, comes in at 51 minutes plus. When it was released, and there was only one single released from the album, Coyote, which leads off the album. Coyote is based on actor playwright Sam Shepard, who she had a relationship with in 1975 while she was touring with Bob Dylan. And it's got to be said, Sam Shepard was a playboy. I mean, he was married. He had a girlfriend on the side. He also was dating Joni Mitchell. They had a fling. And there's a lyric in the song, meaning he's saying, I'm paraphrasing. The lyric went something like he has a wife at home and he has a woman down the hall and he still is interested in me. So he basically wanted his cake and eat it too. So the song is based on that. The tracks on the album, there are 9 songs, and they're fairly lengthy tracks, so like 5-6 minutes each. The lengthiest track in the album is a track called "This Song for Sharon," and that clocks in at like 8 minutes plus. The tracks are very introspective. The music was written and the lyrics were written while she was traveling on her with her assistant. Some of the songs were written inspired by her traveling with Bob Dylan with his tour that he was doing at the time. And it's got to be said, these songs are very moody, but just the quality of the songwriting on this album it's amazing. Is amazing. This is the first album that she worked with Jaco Pastorius on. The bass player she had at the time, she wanted him to record certain chord progressions, and he said, "Oh, real bass players don't do that." And she was getting frustrated because she thought that the albums that were the rock albums that were recorded in the late 60s, early 70s, according to Joni Mitchell, had a dead bass sound, and she wanted to, I guess, do different chord structures on the bass. And she asked the guy, why won't you do this? He said, again, because he said, real bass players don't do this, or rock bass players don't do this. So she got really frustrated. He said, but there's another bass player that can do these kind of chord structures for you. She called him up. She met up with Jaco Pastorius. They hit it off like gangbusters, and he went on to record some of the tracks for the album, and they struck up a good friendship to the point where he toured with her in 1980 for the Shadows and Light tour. Other songs on the album are of note. My favorite one is Amelia, and the guitar chords that she has on that one track literally stops me dead in my tracks. I hear that and I'm taken on a journey. Like I whatever it is I'm doing, I will hear that song and I'm like off on somewhere else. And the songs are very pastoral in terms of the color, and they're very layered and textured in that every time you hear them, you hear something new. This song Amelia is partly based on Amelia Earhart, and it's also based on her travels and Joni Mitchell's travels in the desert. Other songs of note are the title track Hajira, Song for Sharon, which was based on Jackson Browne's wife that he was married to at the time, who had committed suicide. She was a model. She had basically overdosed on pills. And also, Joni Mitchell and Jackson Browne had a brief relationship in 1972. Other songs of note are Blue Motel Room and Refugees of the Road. Just great. A great album. And to me, it's her most dense and layered and complex album in terms of playing, chord structure. It's just amazing. And it's got to be said too, when Hissing of Summer Lawns came out. Wrong album. Court and Spark, when that album came out in 1974. Stevie Nicks had said that she was extremely influenced by that album. But I'll get to that in a few minutes. So that's number 3, Hejira. Coming in at number 2 is Court and Spark. Released in 1974. Had only one single released from it, Raised on Robbery. And I don't know why, because the album is fantastic. Also features the track Help Me and Free Man in Paris, which were quick concert favorites. Also, Down to You, which features, it's a beautiful ballad. Also features a great orchestral backup on it. Free Man in Paris, for me, it almost felt like she was sort of rebelling from responsibilities from the record company, from management, because they were somewhat trying to push her into a more commercial pop area, and she really didn't want to do that. And it almost seems like she was saying that she didn't want the responsibility of having to write the next hit single for Reprise. Raised on Robbery, released as the only single, features fantastic harmony vocals that she does on backup vocals. Just amazing, multi-tracking her vocals, I think at least 3 or 4 times to get a rich, full harmony sound on the vocals. Also features the track Twisted, which is the last track. Not typical, but jazz number that Bette Midler did on her 1973 self-titled. But this ends off the album Twisted. And again, it's just a great record. And please, if you guys are out, please invest the time in listening to it. So that's number 2. Coming in at number 1. And I was flipping back and forth between this being number 1 and number 2. Coming in at number 1 is Blue. Released in 1971 on Reprise. I believe this is her last album for Reprise. This, to me, has got to be Joni Mitchell at her most intimate, most revealing album, featuring the songs California. The album itself, it's very stripped down in terms of instrumentation. You have her on piano, assorted instruments, acoustic guitars, very minimal drums, not a heavy her albums are not heavy in terms of drumming, in terms of the use of drums, but this one even less so. Um, Songs of note are River, Carrie, This Flight Tonight, which I first heard the version that Nazareth did. And Nazareth, whenever they did a cover version of a song, and they're famous for doing them in the 70s, they basically reworked the song completely. Well, obviously keeping the melody, but the arrangement of the track. Nazareth's version is more heavy drums, just a good chugging rhythm on the on rhythm guitar and bass. This version that she does, Joni Mitchell, her original version is very stripped down, and she does hit the high notes. She does go for the high, almost falsetto notes on this album. As she goes down, does the albums to the 70s, her register comes down lower and lower and lower, almost to like a mid-range sound. But when she records Blue, she's still using the high register of her voice. Other songs of note are All I Want, which starts the album, and The Last Time I Saw Richard, which ends the album. And when Chris Christopherson heard the album, he looked at her, he said, Jesus Christ, Joni, like, you need to hold back a little bit. You can't, you shouldn't expose yourself so much. Like, leave something for yourself behind, something of yourself, of your identity, of secrets that you may have to hold on to. Don't tell everyone everything about yourself. She just let it all hang out. She just bared her soul on these albums. And I know that this is what people loved about her songwriting, was her storytelling. And I think she continued that throughout her career. No matter what album she did, no matter what style of music she did, she bared her soul. And she did so with a relentless honesty that has never been topped or matched by any other musician at the time, you know. So yeah, this is my list, and hopefully you guys like it. And please, again, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of Joni Mitchell, what you think of the list, what your list is. Do you like Joni Mitchell? Do you not like Joni Mitchell? Do you think that she's overrated? Do you think that she is underappreciated? Please let me know your opinions. And again, leave your comments down there, and click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. I'm going to be doing another one of these videos on Joni Mitchell. I believe at least, sorry, I've got my Elektra Asylum Records tattoo in the video. I'm going to be doing another episode of this part 2. Probably be tackling her 80s and 90s. I'm going to probably be putting that together and putting that out for you. As I said, again, when I started this channel, I'm going to be doing a lot of different styles of music, not just a rock, but more folk and just different styles of music. And I'm also going to be doing, taping this Friday, a video with Peter Kent from the the Lizard King channel, and we're going to be doing our top album rankings of album rankings of Led Zeppelin version 2.0. And yeah, please again hit like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, and let me know what you think of this video. So that's it for now. And the video with Peter Kent will probably be posted on Monday. So again, look after yourselves and one another, and I will be seeing you very soon with another video. Bye for now.